June 19, 1966. The checkered flag dropped at Le Mans. And in that instant, the world of racing changed forever. Against all odds, Ford had accomplished what seemed impossible. They toppled Ferrari, the titan that had dominated the endurance stage for years. 3 GT40s roared across the finish line in flawless formation, yet in the midst of Ford's crowning glory, one man, the very soul behind the machine, was denied his rightful triumph. This wasn't just the story of an underdog victory. It was also one of betrayal, politics, and heartbreak. At its center stood Ken Miles, a driver and engineer whose brilliance reshaped racing, but whose legacy was stolen by corporate greed. The year was 1963. At that time, motorsport belonged to a single name: Ferrari. Their scarlet-red machines from Maranello had reigned supreme at Le Mans. Year after year, their combination of elegance, speed, and engineering precision crushing every challenger. But across the Atlantic, in Detroit, Henry Ford II, grandson of the legendary founder, was watching. Ford was wealthy, powerful, and restless. He didn't just want factories producing cars. He wanted prestige, immortality, and glory on the racetrack. So Ford made a bold move. He tried to buy Ferrari. For months, negotiations went back and forth. American money and Italian mastery seemed destined to unite into an unstoppable force. But when the deal was nearly sealed, Enzo Ferrari delivered his infamous rejection. The commendatore refused to give up control of his racing empire, mocking the Americans as mere assembly line businessmen who could never grasp the soul of competition. The insult cut like a knife. Henry Ford II sat in silence, his pride shattered in front of his boardroom. Then came his fiery command, words that would ignite one of the greatest rivalries in motorsport. "Build me a car that will destroy Ferrari at Le Mans." This was no longer business. This was war. To lead the charge, Ford needed someone unconventional, someone who lived and breathed racing. That man was Carroll Shelby, a Texan cowboy of the racing world. Once a Le Mans champion himself, Shelby had become a maverick car builder with a sharp mind and a fearless attitude. He was everything the polished executives in Detroit were not: gritty, bold, and unafraid of risk. But Shelby knew something Ford didn't. Winning wasn't just about building a fast car. It required a driver who could feel the heartbeat of a machine, a man who understood engines like living creatures. That man was Ken Miles. Ken Miles was not the corporate ideal. A British war veteran with grease-stained hands, a sharp tongue, and zero patience for politics, Miles clashed with Ford's executives. But Shelby recognized his genius. Miles wasn't just a driver, he was an engineer on wheels. He could sense a car's flaws without touching a wrench, then push it to its breaking point and explain exactly why it failed. Together, Shelby and Miles spearheaded Ford's vengeance, the GT40 project. But the path to victory was far from smooth. The first prototypes were disasters, unreliable, fragile, and prone to failure. Ferrari laughed while Ford's executives grew restless. Yet amid the chaos, Ken Miles's insight began shaping the machine into something lethal. A weapon was being forged, one that could either make history or shatter everyone involved. The early GT40 was fast but unstable. It overheated, broke down, and crashed with alarming regularity. Ford executives panicked while Ferrari gloated. But Ken Miles turned frustration into progress. He became the GT40's test pilot and truth-teller, identifying problems others couldn't see. Still, the GT40 needed more than adjustments. It needed a heart. That heart was found not in Detroit, but in England, where a small workshop had been building something extraordinary. The Lola Mk6, created by visionary Eric Broadley, was a revolution: lightweight, aerodynamic, and far ahead of its time. Ford saw its potential and acquired both the car and Broadley's expertise. The GT40's DNA was born from this British innovation. But Ford's corporate control soon clashed with Broadley's independence. Within a year, Broadley was pushed aside. his contributions absorbed into Ford's machine, his name erased from history. Powering the GT40 would be a monster, Ford's 7.0L FE V8 engine. Heavy, raw, and intimidating, it needed refinement. Shelby's team, including legendary mechanics like Charlie Agapio, transformed the iron block into a racing icon. Mechanics nicknamed it the Sidewinder, a nod to its deadly, unpredictable strike. It didn't sing like Ferrari's engines, it roared like a sledgehammer. And in endurance racing, sometimes a sledgehammer was exactly what was needed. Ford poured millions into the GT40 program, but money alone couldn't win. The first attempts at Le Mans ended in humiliation as cars broke down spectacularly. Executives were horrified, but Ken Miles saw opportunity. While engineers debated in boardrooms, he was in the garage, sleeves rolled up, dissecting the car like a surgeon determined to save a life. Miles wasn't just a driver, he was poetry in motion. Carroll Shelby once said, "Ken talks to the car, and the damn thing talks back." With Miles behind the wheel, the GT40 evolved through trial and failure. Every breakdown became data, every loss a step forward. By 1965, Ford's storm was brewing. At Daytona, the GT40 stunned the racing world with dominance. Then came Sebring, where Miles's surgical precision carried Ford to the podium again. For the first time, Ferrari looked vulnerable. But with success came tension. Executives despised Miles. He was blunt, rough-edged, and unwilling to play the corporate hero. He cursed, argued, and ignored orders. To them, he was a liability. To Shelby, he was irreplaceable. Without Ken Miles, the GT40 was just another machine. With him, it became a predator. The stage was set. Le Mans 1966 loomed, and Ford's ultimate showdown with Ferrari was about to begin. Before the GT40, there was the Lola MK6. Eric Broadley's masterpiece was a glimpse of the future, a mid-engine chassis wrapped in aerodynamic beauty. Ford's engineers saw it and knew they had found the foundation for their Ferrari killer. At first, the partnership looked promising. Ford brought money, Broadley brought genius. But the relationship soured quickly. Ford wanted control, Broadley wanted freedom. His independence didn't survive corporate politics. Within months, he was sidelined, his contributions buried under Ford's branding. The GT40 carried Ford's blue oval, but its skeleton and spirit were Lola's. Broadley faded into obscurity, erased from the official narrative. Yet in every curve of the GT40's body, his fingerprints remained. The summer of 1966 arrived with anticipation crackling through pit lanes and boardrooms alike. After years of heartbreak, the GT40 was ready. Ferrari's empire was in danger. At the tip of Ford's spear stood Ken Miles, the man who had poured his soul into this machine. Le Mans 1966 was destiny. For Ford, revenge. For Shelby, redemption. For Miles, immortality. From the moment the race began, Miles was untouchable. His control flawless. His instincts razor-sharp. Ferrari's dominance collapsed as their cars failed under pressure. By dawn, Ken Miles was leading comfortably. Victory was certain. But in the executive suites above, Ford's leadership had other ideas. A single GT40 crossing first was a victory. 3 GT40s crossing together in formation? That was marketing gold. They ordered Miles to slow down, to stage a 1-2-3 photo finish. There was a catch. Because of race regulations, Bruce McLaren's GT40, starting further back, would be declared the official winner if the cars finished side by side. Carroll Shelby fought for Miles, but the executives refused. This was about corporate image, not fairness. With minutes left, Miles received the order. He resisted at first. This was his moment, earned through sweat, pain, and brilliance. But Miles was a team player. Against every instinct, he obeyed. He backed off, allowing McLaren to catch up. Together, the 3 GT40s crossed in formation. Cameras flashed. The crowd roared. Then came the announcement. Bruce McLaren, not Ken Miles, was the official winner. The man who had made Ford's triumph possible was denied his crown. Betrayed on the world's biggest stage. After Le Mans, nothing was the same. Shelby raged at Ford's betrayal. Miles, usually sharp and fiery, grew quiet. He had clawed his way into greatness, only to see it stolen for a photograph. To Ford executives, it was perfect PR. To Ken Miles, it was heartbreak. Whispers spread that Ford never intended for him to be the face of victory. He didn't fit the polished image they wanted. Still, Miles returned to work, testing Ford's next project. The J-Car, a faster, lighter successor to the GT40. Perhaps he was searching for redemption, or perhaps he simply couldn't walk away from the machines he loved. But fate had other plans. On August 17, 1966, during a high-speed test at Riverside, the J-Car became unstable. At 200 mph, it lifted, flipped violently, and burst into flames. Ken Miles was killed instantly. The man who had built Ford's greatest weapon, who should have stood atop the podium at Le Mans, was gone.